This is How to Read the Plum in the Golden Lotus Chapter 22, Embroidered Portrait Edition. Huilianer secretly loves you. Sister Chunmai is righteous and seductive. 1. The power structure of the Ximen family in the portrait book. Song Huilian and Pang Chunmai, who appear as contrasts in the title, are very similar. This similarity is shown by his position in Ximen's family. Therefore, outside of the fight for favor, let us briefly take a look at the power structure of the Ximen family. In the Ximen family, the pinnacle of power is of course Ximen King. He has the power of life and death over almost everyone. The secondary power belongs to the wife, Wu Yunyang, who has relatively great power over the concubine and others. She also has the power to sell the concubine. The third level is concubine. Concubine is a position that can be moved up or down. That is, if she is favored, the concubine may have more say than the wife. Otherwise, she may be relegated to the sidelines and has no comment. The fourth level occupies a special position in Ximen's family. It cannot be high or low, and can often be ignored, namely Ximen's eldest sister and son-in-law Chen Jingji. The fifth level includes servants, maids and servants. They all sold themselves to the Ximen family, but the servants and maids were married and had certain freedoms and independent residences. The maids and servants were unmarried and generally lived with their masters. Obviously, we can see that the first four classes are connected through sex including blood. Most of them belong to the power class Sun Zui and Chen Jingji are some exceptions, while the fifth class belongs to the dominated or exploited class. They work in exchange for wages, monthly money, or tips from their masters, although they also use blood-related titles with the first four levels: grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, brother, sister, etc. Therefore, the best and only way to break the two-level division is to change through sex. Housekeepers and servants are obviously not good enough, but maids and maidservants are lucky to have natural conditions. If they want to be promoted to the power class and enter the competition for favors, they can have sex with their master Ximen King. This is why we should take a more serious look at it. One of the fundamental reasons for looking at sex in Jin Ping Mei. This is how Sun Zui was upgraded from a maid to a concubine through sexual relations. Although she still needed to work, her personal life situation was actually much better than that of other maids or maids. Chunmai also passed this sexual relationship. Although she has not been upgraded to a concubine, it gave her enough capital to be arrogant and indulgent in the fifth level circle. The new character Song Huilian in this chapter also starts from the fifth level. Through sexual relations, there is the possibility of upgrading at any time. The next 5 chapters of the story unfold against this background. 2. Who is Song Huilian? Let's start with who Song Huilian is and tell her story. The daughter of Song Ren, who sells coffins, is also named Jinlian. She was first sold as a servant in Kai Tongpan's house, and then she got into trouble and married the cook Zhang Kong. When Lai Wenger saw this wife, the two of them after drinking and gossiping, this wife got sick. One day, I and a common cook used their swords and sticks to stab Zhang Kong to the ground. My wife came to Wenger and said to Ximen King, the culprit was caught and sentenced to death, which was enough to save Zhang Kong's life. Later, Lai Wenger coaxed Yunyang and gave him 5 taels of silver, 2 sets of clothes, 4 pieces of green and red cloth, and hairpins and rings to marry him. Wife, Yunyang changed his name to Huilian because his name was Jinlian, and it was difficult to call him. This woman is 2 years younger than Jinlian and is 24 years old this year. She is fair-skinned, neither fat nor thin, and neither short nor long in appearance. Smaller than golden lotus feet. Bright and sensitive, good at changing things, and good at dressing up. It's a long personal resume, but have you discovered that this is just another Pan Jinlian? 1. Pan Jinlian was named after Jinlian because her feet were small. Song Huilian was originally called Jinlian, and her feet were even smaller. The two were about the same age. Pan Jinlian looked better, and Song Huilian was not bad either. In appearance, Pan Jinlian looked exactly alike, and Song Huilian looked the same. Also good at changing situations and dressing up. 2. Pan Jinlian was the maid of Zhang Dahu's family, and Song Huilian was the maid of Kai Tongpan's family. They were all because of bad things. Pan Jinlian was hired by Zhang Dahu, and Song Huilian cheated with the eldest wife to support Han. Married to the lower classes. 3. Pan Jinlian's ex-husband Wu Daling died, and Song Huilian's ex-husband Zhang Kong also died. They were both married to the people who had seduced them. The difference was that Pan Jinlian married Simon King, and Song Huilian married Lai Wang. Simple and clear, the author did describe Song Huilian according to Pan Jinlian's appearance. However, the interesting thing is that in Pan Jinlian's view, they're not the same thing at all. The reason is simple. Pan Jinlian married Simon King and became a powerful member of the Simon family, while her daughter-in-law Song Huilian was just a servant of the Simon family. They were very different. Moreover, everyone knows that if you want to reach the sky in one step, the latter is Simon King's nature. Song Huilian may become the second Chunmai or the second Sun Zui. It depends on her destiny. In fact, in the view of Pan Jinlian later, Song Huilian, Li Ping'er, and Dryer can be said to be from the same origin, and they are all her main enemies for favor. From the versatility of one role to multiple roles, Jin Ping Mei this method of shadow writing probably also influenced the creation of Dream of Red Mansions. For example, the much talked about king is the dark shadow. The attack is the hairpin, and the 2U in the Red Mansion may also benefit from this. 3. The whole story of Song Huilian's adultery as mentioned earlier. The word infidelity was used when Simon King hooked up with Pan Jinlian. Li Ping'er hooked up with Simon King, and Pan Jinlian hooked up with Chen Jingji. Why is the word adultery used here? My distinction is this: if there are feelings between the parties that go beyond the sexual act itself, it is called affair. If it is just pure sexual behavior or financial transactions, it is called adultery. Therefore, Song Huilian uses adultery here to distinguish. Song Huilian married Lai Wang, so naturally she worked in Simon's family. The first position was on the stove, that is, starting in the kitchen. Of course, we still remember that the kitchen manager was Sun Zui. A woman looks for someone who pleases herself. If there is no one who pleases herself, you can look for someone who pleases you. After getting acquainted with Simon's family, Song Huilian began to try her best to imitate Meng Yulu and Pan Jinlian's dress. They looked very different. Finally, she attracted Simon King's attention. On the one hand, Simon King arranges a business trip to Lai Wang, and on the other hand, he looks for Yu Xiao to pimp him. The previous article has left a foreshadowing. Simon King's excuse was that Song Huilian's red jacket matched with a purple skirt. Red with purple was too uncoordinated. He asked Yu Xiao to find another skirt for her. What was going on? First of all, from an aesthetic point of view, the combination of red and purple is dissimilar and repels each other, which is indeed very unsightly. But even so, what happened to Kansai Mengi? Secondly, this purple skirt was lent to her by Yu Xiao. If she lent the skirt to Song Huilian for personal reasons, then expressing this intention to Simon King was not simply asking for credit. She was saying, if you really dislike it, this dress doesn't look good, so of course I'll give it to you. But if you want to do something more, I can also help. The reward she hopes for may only be known to her. Simon King asked Yu Xiao to give Song Huilian a piece of blue satin, emerald blue and, for season's flowers, happy encounter satin, teach you how to make a skirt and wear it. At this time, we saw Song Huilian's reaction. I will make it, and my mother will see it. What's wrong? Yu Xiao said. Father will tell mother tomorrow. Don't worry. There's something fishy here, right? Song Huilian's I will make it refers to making a blue satin skirt. What will the wives and concubines do when they see it? This shows that this kind of blue satin is not ordinary satin. There is a saying from Pan Jinlian in the 25th chapter of the Qihua book. I think she is brave enough to wear it. She is a good wife. According to this statement, blue satin is somewhat classy. The meaning of the difference is that at least it is not something that Song Huilian can wear casually or dares to wear casually. At least it is something that Simon King needs to explain to his wives and concubines before he can wear it. But no matter what, Song Huilian has begun to pursue her dream. She has had the dream since she began to imitate Meng Yulu and Pan Jinlian. She also wants to be a concubine later. She has been waiting for Simon King to promote her to Kenyang. However, we must tell her that, at least at the moment, she is thinking wrong, or at least overthinking. We see that what Simon King said to her was, "My son, if you obey me, your head, face, clothes, and clothes are up to you." And what Yuxiao said to her was, "If you obey me, it's up to you. Whatever you want, Daddy will buy it with you." This only promised to give him money and said nothing else. The naive Song Huilian was so carried away that she couldn't understand the difference. She probably thought that she could really wear a blue satin skirt from now on. She said, "I was waiting in the house when Dad came." Yuxiao's answer was almost straightforward. "There is no one in the cave at the bottom of the mountain, so it's okay for a while." This moment should dispel all of Song Huilian's unrealistic dreams. We know that in a family like the Simon family, where there are many wives and concubines, the main wife is called the main wife for the upper house, and the concubines are called the side wife for the side house. In other words, no matter whether they are wives or concubines, they still have a house and a room. Song Huilian wanted to receive Simon King in her own house, which was a servant's house, not a side house. Not to mention that she could only spend a while in a cave made out of nothing. What status and future can such a moment give her? Song Huilian's current rewards can only be material. She can buy things and clothes. Simon King even adjusted her work position and asked her to transfer from the kitchen to Wu Yunyang's room to do some light work such as tea making and needlework. The qualification is tied with Yuxiao. Originally, in the Simon family, most of the time, the wives and concubines would have no choice but to acquiesce to the affair with Simon King, as long as they knew how to stand their own positions. Even Pan Jinlian, who is the most jealous, already knew that she could never possess Simon King alone. So when Song Huilian took advantage of the situation and took refuge, and when Simon King asked for help, Pan Jinlian benefited from this benefit. After all, the family belonged to Simon King. It is far less practical to use this excuse to threaten the two of them than to make a fuss in the public. So she kept the secret, not even telling Meng Yulu, just to teach him to people to have sex so that men like it. If Song Huilian was smart enough and knew how to keep things in check and stop in moderation, then things might go smoothly and be very interesting. However, Song Huilian was too arrogant and blind. She had an outstanding appearance and relied on Simon King's appreciation to think that already able to talk directly with dad maids such as Yi Jiangking and others are theoretically unable to talk directly with Simon King. They only face the wives and concubines at home and have made many fifth-level actions beyond her. Things to come, she even started to provoke the entire group of wives and concubines by herself without being attached to anyone you know. This is something that even Pan Jinlian didn't dare to think about, so from then on, she gradually fell into the world full of tragedy. In the end of life, 4:16 Forget 8. The second half of this chapter is Chunmai's story. As you can see from the title, Chunmai is meant to compete with Song Huilian. But what is strange is that in the next 5 chapters of Song Huilian's story, what does it mean to insert half of Chunmai's story alone? In other words, what's the point in Chunmai scolding Li Ming for practicing musical instruments? Li Ming is such a marginal character, but Chunmai just squeezed his hand a little hard during the practice, and Chunmai scolded 16 people in a row. Forget the 8, and then bring the Yushao people to accompany them to scold them, and the scolding will be known to the whole family, old and young. What is the point of being so fierce? Well, I want to solemnly announce that now is the time to learn writing from the author of Jin Ping Mei. 1. I wrote Li Ming to write about Sister Li Gui. In the first 2 episodes, when the crazy disciples competed and destroyed the garden, and after accepting the Count's invitation to drink, a question rose. Should we write the role of Sister Li Gui? If you don't write or rarely write, then all the previous hard work will be meaningless. If you still write the story into the brothel as often as before, then you won't be able to write the most important battle for Favorite Territory 3.0. Therefore, the author used a compromise method. On the one hand, He wrote about Sister Li Gui stealing customers, which paved the way for Sister Li Gui to take over Wang Sangguan later, and wrote that Simon King was angry and alienated the brothel. The relationship was severed, and Chun Mai wrote that she scolded Li Ming, that she would not let Li Ming come to the house, and that she would cool down the matter and let it go. At this point, the focus of the writing is brought back to Simon's family, and a series of stories, such as Pan Jinlian and Li Ping'er as all-round competition for favor. Simon King's birth of a son and promotion of official positions can be said to be a big river, flowing thousands of miles. 2. To clarify the interface for the 3.0 version of the favor map that was revealed in the last episode. On the one hand, the four corners of the favor trial had a small trial in the Song Huilian incident. On the other hand, the original old gang was completely eliminated. As mentioned last time, the arrival of Li Ping'er has made the 3.0 version of the four-corner dispute about to emerge. Song Huilian's adultery story just provides them with a practice stage, in order to let everyone have more fun. Not only Li Guiji, but also Li Jiar must be collected. Look at Chun Mei's words after scolding Li Ming. What did he say to Meng Yulu and Li Ping'er at that time? Hai Sun Lucky, and is considering her Niang's brother, even if he is afraid of him. Why don't her Niang beat me with 5 sticks in revenge? The translation of this is, Li Ming thinks he is Li Jiao's younger brother? Am I afraid of Li Jiar? Did she hit me if she wasn't convinced? It was so loud and blatant that Li Ming ran away with his tail between his legs, without saying anything, the text only. Restored Li Ming's lukewarm status after Simon King gave birth to his son and was promoted to official position, and Li Jiar didn't even say a word. This is the joint effect of Chun Mai scolding Li Ming. Otherwise, it would be too troublesome to write a separate article about Chun Mai or the Garden Beauty Gang, challenging Li Jiar. 3. By comparing Song Huilian's favor with her, Chun Mei bullies her subordinates, thereby showing Chun Mei's position in the competition for favor. More importantly, Chun Mai should be described as tall. Because Chun Mai is the heroine in the last 20 chapters, we must pay attention to the writing and ink to leave foreshadowing. Comparison with Song Huilian is the best opportunity because they are in similar positions and are in similar situations. In this regard, the author made a comparison of flattering the superior and bullying the subordinate. Those who flatter the superior are humble, while those who bully the inferior are self-respecting. Song Huilian met her master Simon King, so it was normal to be attracted to her. Chun Mai met Li Ming. Why was she said to be bullying her? Here we need to explain the music records of the Ming dynasty. Li Ming's professional identity is Li Hu, and his official registration is listed as Li Hu. In the Ming dynasty, the status of Li Hu was extremely low. During the Yongle period, Zhu De, the founder of the Ming dynasty, demoted the wives and daughters of Emperor Jianwen's ministers to Li Hu's status. Most of them were sent to the army to serve as camp prostitutes, and the rest also served as prostitutes or turtle masters. Later, many emperors acquiesced to this approach and made strict legal and institutional regulations on Li Hu. Although the economic status of Li Hu is not necessarily lower than that of scholars, farmers, industry, and commerce, their lives are strictly restricted. They cannot marry good people, cannot study, and are punished more severely for committing crimes than good people. They even have strict restrictions on daily clothing, decoration, and daily activities. Restrictions, and therefore discrimination by society as a whole. Zijiao's Wazazu says that green scarves are a sign of humiliation. That is, musicians must wear green scarves on their heads to show that they are different from good people. Gucci Yuan's guest word says, men wear green scarves, tie red belts around their waists, and wear pigskin boots with fur. They are not allowed to walk in the street, and they stop walking on the side of the road. That is, you can only walk along the street. Walk around the corner. Therefore, even though Chun Mei's current status is that of a maid of the Simon family, and she belongs to the lower class, it still makes sense to look down on Li Hu. What's more, she has been used by her master, and there is a possibility of being upgraded to a concubine. Therefore, Chun Mai was extremely angry at Li Ming's slight arrogance. She scolded 16 bastards in a row, and finally came up with a magical sentence. Beat the bastard's face screen. Xianjai in the bastard comments on Dream of Red Mansions praise this sentence as amazing. Moreover, the text also makes a superior judgment on Song Huilian's charm and Chunmei's bullying. After Song Huilian had an affair, her pride was manifested in form, and she tried her best to flaunt herself as different from all aspects of appearance, dress, language and actions, while Chunmei's pride was manifested in spirit, which was reflected in her 16 forgetting 8. It can be seen from Pan Jinlian defending and boasting about her, and then scolding Li Ming for 5 forgetfuls. It can be seen from how she continued to provoke Li Jiar after scolding Li Ming. And from Ximon King's, it can be seen even more clearly that Chunmei Zhang just took his word for it, without even asking. Of course, we can imagine what it would be like for a pair of beauties, Pan Jinlian and Chunmei, to be arrogant and abusive in front of a large audience. We can also imagine how Li Jiar and Sun Zue over there dared to be angry but dare not speak out. If it turns out that Miss Chunmei was just legendary, then everyone in the Ximon family knew about it after this battle, and her reputation has been high in price ever since. Now our question comes, why is Chunmei so arrogant? Is it just because of Ximon King's employment? Where does Chunmei stand in the four-corner dispute in version 3.0 of the competition for favor? The first is Chunmei's innate advantages. In addition to the 16 tails, there is another important fact that we cannot ignore. That is, Chunmei was dedicated to Ximon King as a virgin. Chunmei only has one man, her master Ximon King, who is particularly handsome in the eyes of everyone else. Not to mention that she may become his concubine at any time. Therefore, Chunmei at this time does not hesitate to abide by her loyalty to the end of morality. Therefore, Li Ming just squeezed his hand intentionally or unintentionally, and Chunmei reacted hugely. According to Pan Jinlian, the other servants in the family did not even dare to tease her. How could Li Hu get involved? So although this makes Chunmei seem to have a bad temper and a bad personality, the more she is like this, the more she will be liked by Ximon King. Because this is Chunmei protecting herself like jade for him. Although he doesn't have much virginity complex, he will never be happy for others to touch his woman. So Chunmei naturally gets his unconditional support by scolding Li Ming. The second is Chunmei's actual status. The situation of Sun Zue, who was also a virgin and presented to Ximon King, was also a maid, and somewhat beautiful, was in a very different situation. This was because Sun Zue was already a concubine. We say that if you are not strong enough but occupy a position that others are jealous of, then you are probably in danger. How could Sun Zue, who was inferior in wealth, sex, and intelligence, and had no background support, withstand the attack of Wu Yunyang and the Garden Beauty Gang? Chunmei's advantage is that she is still a maid. She has the prospect of being upgraded to a concubine, and she can hide behind Pan Jinlian securely, with a well-founded approach and a certain degree of relaxation. It is these 2 points that give Chunmei a reason to be arrogant and domineering. If anyone in the Ximon family cannot understand these, everyone will suffer. Miss, she was immediately kicked out of Ximon's house. For the 4 protagonists in the 3.0 version of the competition for favors, Chunmei is a very strange person. This is a much more terrifying opponent than Song Huilian, and she is the one who may truly become the Kenyang at any time. Therefore, both Li Pinger and Meng Yulu were smart enough not to treat Chunmei as an ordinary maid. Wu Yunyang was angry and refused to speak, while Pan Jinlian tried his best to win over her. It is precisely with Chunmei's strong support that Pan Jinlian's combat effectiveness suddenly increased, and she began to meet the challenge of their new opponent Song Huilian.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.